CBS News political director and Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson is here. Good morning. As Juliana first reported, this would be unprecedented for Trump children or any children of a president to have these top secret security clearances. What do you make of it?
Well, you know, the whole basket of issues related to the Trump family and the Trump operation is really interesting. We just spent a big campaign going through the connections between the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton because there was a lack of transparency. There were muddy and fuzzy relationships, and influence was being sought by various people through various connections. So that seems all in play here. So whatever happens, presumably if they want to drain the swamp, the relationship with the family and the business would be very open and above boards, or the walls between the two would be very high if the President Trump wants to keep faith with the promises he made and all the criticism he leveled during the campaign.
Can we talk about President Obama's news conference yesterday? It went on much longer, I think, than most people thought, but he appeared to be reassuring, cautionary, complimentary, and seemed to be sending messages to many different people. What was your takeaway?
Well, I think the biggest message he was sending was to those who were worried about Donald Trump as a president. He was saying the office of the presidency slows you down, which is funny because that's what those people were critical of him about. You know, the change wasn't coming fast enough, and now he's saying you may not have liked it then, but now you can take comfort in that because change is slow. He kept talking about the constraints on the president and the rules and the norms you have to follow. Now, the use of that word norms is interesting because if there was one thing to define Donald Trump's presidential campaign, it was norm breaking.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what worries people, is that he'll break through those norms.
He was almost flattering of the president, which was a remarkable turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, right, they're both flattering of each other, but President Obama was saying he's not ideological. Yeah. He talked about his gifts. He seemed to be sending messages to him through that flattery. The flattery was sort of the appetizer, and the meal was, don't get ahead of yourself here, get a good staff in place, don't try and be too radical, recognize that you have to be slow in what you do.
What do you think the point of that flattery was?
Well, I think to get the message across to Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump's advisors talk about how they have sought to speak to him through the television, and that's effective. And it felt very much like the president was sending messages to his supporters first, but also to Donald Trump in that press conference.
And complimenting what he's done, what Donald Trump has done.
That's right, and recognizing it and paying sort of homage to it. But then I think also, if you want to be just totally crass and political for a moment, if he's going to criticize him later, he needs to not look like he criticized him right out of the box, or people will just say, oh, well, this is just one.
And he did not criticize the appointment of Steve Bannon.
He did not, although he did it not on Bannon-specific grounds. He said, I'm not going to talk about every single pick.
And remember, Obama's planning to live in Washington for the next couple of years as his daughter finishes high school. So you're going to have a president and a former president in the same town.
Here's the question I wanted to ask. George W. Bush set a precedent not to talk about his successor. Is Barack Obama going to follow that?
Yeah. And then let's talk about who President-elect Trump is considering for some of these top cabinet posts.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, as Major pointed out, loyalty. That is... Here's the challenge with Donald Trump, with any presidency, is if you surround yourself with loyalists, you cocoon, and all your thinking gets wrapped into a tight bubble.
Does loyalty trump experience, do you think?
In this case, it does, and that's not often, and that's not always a bad thing, except when loyalty creates that reinforcing circle of people around you. John Kennedy discovered this very early, where you get into groupthink. And especially if you have a strong chief executive who can't be told no. On the other hand, you need loyalists who may be the only one who can tell the chief executive no because he trusts them. And that's where the family is super important.
Great way to think about it.
John Dickerson. So much to follow. Thank you very much.
What's going on, Gal?